things started. I'm gonna look distracted because I'm gonna still try and add people in as they come. But I'm Carrie Knutson, and I am the Southeast District Director for North Dakota Professional Communicators. So I am part of FMPC Group, and I am super excited to be hosting today's learning opportunity. And I just love this format that we've had where all 4 districts are coming together so people can learn from not just people in our local communities, but all across North Dakota. And I've really enjoyed that. So if anybody in my FMPC group, if you haven't joined another group or to hear from another part of the state, I totally recommend you do that, just because you're hearing from people that you probably haven't heard from before. So it's been really fun and interesting for that. And so how we typically start our meetings is I have everybody just quickly give a, this is my name and this is where I work and what I do. And we don't need anything more than that, just so Leanne, our presenter, kind of has an idea of who her audience is. She knows that we're a bunch of communicators, but at least she can see the broad spectrum of people. So I'll start real quick, and then what I'll do is I'll probably just go down my list and I will call on you if that's okay, so we don't just kind of have that Zoom, everyone chiming in or nobody chiming in. So I'm Carrie Knutson, and I work for Ide Bailey, and I'm their visual content producer, and I'm in Fargo. So how about Heather Severson?
Hi, I'm Heather Severson. I work for AE2S Communications, and I'm their media manager. I'm here in Fargo too.
And Jill Schramm?
Yes, my name is Jill Schramm. I'm a staff writer for the Minot Daily News, and I'm also the Northwest District Director for NDPC.
Okay. Teresa Lofts. Oh gosh. You can pronounce it for me.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm excited to be able to join today. So I am the Director of Marketing at Minot State University and the Treasurer for Minot MAPC Group.
How about, let's see here, it's not Jolynn. I'm sorry, I forgot your first name.
Yeah, no, Rob Keller from Bismarck, retired Army, but I'm also FEMA crisis communication trainer, and love this group here. Some great folks here.
Allison Zima.
Hi, everybody. I'm Allison. I'm the Director of Information Services at the Southeast Education Cooperative. I've been part of the group for a few years, and I've really just liked hearing who gets to come in and making some new networking connections. So I apologize, I'm keeping my camera off. I have kiddos home, we're quarantined, so I'll share when I can.
Becky.
Hi, I'm Becky. Oh, never fails. The phone rings right when. I'm Becky Koch. I'm NDSU Agriculture Communication Director for another 2.5 days before I retire on Friday and move to Arizona.
Is it Brianne Sandholm?
Hi, Brianne Sandholm, and I work at Hospice of the Red River Valley, Digital Marketing Specialist.
And let's see here, going down, we did Becky. Danielle.
Hi, everyone. Danielle Tigan. I am based out of, or I'm working remotely, but I work for Forum Communications as the managing editor of On the Minds of Moms. And Becky, congrats on your upcoming retirement and move. It's very exciting. So nice to see everyone here.
Ellen.
I'm Ellen Crawford. I'm a writer-editor with NDSU Ag Communication, and I'm also treasurer for NDPC.
And Gregory?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gregory Wald. I work in acquisitions and communications at Moore Holding Company in West Fargo. Congratulations, Becky, on your retirement. Very excited about that. Good for you. And it's good to see everybody. I've known Leanne for a number of years now, so I'm excited to hear what she has to say today.
That's awesome. Let's see here. Heather, have I done you? Severson?
Yep, you got me.
Okay, I'm sorry, my list keeps moving around here and I'm like, oh, I'll try and remember. How about Jen?
Hey everyone, I'm Jen Rabb from the Bismarck chapter, and I'm the Communications Director for the Office of Management and Budget.
Okay, let's go. How about Pam Gibb? Are you here? Well, I'm not sure she has audio right now, so let's. How about Teal?
Hi, Teal Myrie from SRT Communications in Minot.
Tara?
Hi, Tara Fremming with Healthy Food Ingredients here in Fargo.
And Sadie?
Hi guys, Sadie Rudolph, Public Relations Manager at Flint Group, and I'm also the President of North Dakota Professional Communicators.
Richard, have we done you? I think we did. Did we do Richard? Oh, he doesn't have video or audio, but welcome, Richard. Let's see here. Pam Gibb, do you have?
I have audio now. I can
Okay.
guys. I had to rejoin and now I can hear. Pam Gibb, I'm in Moorhead. I do a little freelance right now. My project is the NDPC website redesign.
Great. And Nicole Ellis?
Hey, I'm Nicole Ellis. I'm in Fargo and I work over at Concordia College. I do marketing for our Language Villages program.
Okay, let's see here. Did we do Julie Ellingson?
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Ellingson. I'm the Executive Vice President of the North Dakota Stockmen's Association. Our headquarters is here in Bismarck.
And Jolynn? I should have written people down to see if I did these people.
Yep, that's with Rob.
That's you. That's you. I'm sorry.
No problem.
How about Jill? Did we do Jill? Yeah? Okay. Jennifer?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Skay. I'm the PIO with the North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality in Bismarck.
Okay. And now what I'm going to do is, okay, do we have Eloise? Maybe not. Okay, anybody who has not introduced themselves, let's just do a free-for-all right now.
I haven't yet. Tammy Fogel. I am in Fargo. I do digital marketing for North Dakota State College of Science, and I'm also the secretary this year for NDPC.
I'm Pamela Knudsen. I work at the Grand Forks Herald, and I do features and some education reporting. And I'm director of the Northeast District of NDPC.
Anyone else? All right. Well, we are going to begin our meeting then. I'm really excited to have Leanne Wolf here from Great Outcomes Consulting to talk to us about pandemic fatigue, different communication preferences, and the why behind things. I've known Leanne for a few years now, and I always enjoy talking with her. And I always tell people, if you want to have your life changed, have a conversation with Leanne. So Leanne, I'll let you take it away. I'm going to figure out how to enable sharing. I am new at Zoom, so we use Teams at work. So I'm going to try and figure that out right now.
Okay. So while she's figuring that out, a couple of things to talk with folks about. When I've been having multiple conversations with my clients about stresses that are happening in their workplace and places where and people who normally don't have conflict seem to be having conflict. And so when Carrie talked to me just a little while ago, you know, we just started to talk about what would be helpful and important for people to hear. It just kind of flowed because it came from client conversations. And so what you're hearing are some of the conversations I've had with clients. The other thing is communicators are near and dear to my heart because that's where I started my career. And I spent about 8 years in, or more, in communication. And so in corporate communication of one form or another. And so I think that laid the groundwork for all the other aspects of my career and what I do today. So I'm delighted to be with you all today. And with that, let's see if we can, oh, there, she did it. She got the screen share going. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is put this on the sharing and get rid of the voice and move you all over here. So I asked Carrie to watch the chat and because I'm not going to be able to see that. So keep that, feel free to use that and type in questions and or just unmute and say, wait, Leanne, what are you talking about there? This is what I have for nearly all of my norms for all of my client meetings, and that I really want you to be curious and ask questions. Please listen carefully when other people are talking, engage, which means sometimes avoid those distractions. Have some fun. Gregory knows I don't mind being harassed. I have 6 older brothers, so very accustomed to being harassed by and teased by people. So and challenged. I teach 2 courses at Concordia in ethics and leadership, and so the most fun I have is when the students push back. So I would love for you to challenge me at any point. And then of course use chat. The parking lot is, this will be a great place if you want to have other programs, and Carrie and her colleagues who are on the team that determine the programs, this would be a great place to plant some of those seeds for future programs. Okay, so with that in mind, we're going to talk about 3 topics today and they kind of go whoop, right into each other. Stress, strengths, and the basics in crisis. So I don't know about all of you, but I have observed with many of my clients that there is a stress level. Before we talk about today's stress level, what I'd like you to do is, hang on, I'm activating this. So what you can do, all right, this is giving, let me unactivate and activate. What you can do is you can respond on your computer to pollev.com/LeanneWolf198, or you can text 22333. What this does for you is you'll dial the number and then you'll put the first text you'll put in is my name 198, or you can use it on your computer. What I want to know is put yourself back a year in November 2019 on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think your stress level was? And this poll everywhere made it really obnoxious. So you have to choose a letter to correspond with the number. Don't ask. I don't know. So I'm going to leave that up for there for just another second or a little bit because we're starting to get responses in. And I know there's about 17 or 18 of you folks out there. So I want to give you a little bit of time. And then we'll see where you think your stress was last year at this time. You seem to be stuck at 7. Okay, I'm going
to just to make sure, the bigger the number, the more stress, right?
Yes. On
Okay.
a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, oh, life is so smooth, and 10 being, oh my God. All right. Thank you for clarifying, and I'm going to show the responses. Whoa, we had some people under a lot of stress last year. And by the way, I also allowed the poll to change. So if you want to change your perspective, you're more than able to do that. right, so that's where your stress was last year at this time. I'm going to pause, last, and now let's go to this year. Whoops, hang on, I'm going to clear that response, and I'm going to activate this one. Now you can respond again, but this time, what is your stress level? Whoa, filling in at a higher level. So did you notice the consistency last time? There were folks who were, and I can't go back and forth because I didn't lock the last one, my apologies. What you see is a consistently more higher stress level. And you know, honestly, that is not surprising. Of course it is. So here's, I'm going to give you just another second. That 8 seems to be a common one. 8 and 7. Few people at 9 and 10. All right, I'm going to move on now. So this is how life normally is. We have some ups and we have some downs, but for the most part, you know, we're kind of level. Now, granted, there are some people who have higher ups and lower lows, but in general, this is how normal life is. And by the way, for all of you reporters out there, this is not scientific. This is my observations only. I feel like I need to provide that disclaimer. It's just what I've been noticing. So this, if we think this is the level, then this is what life we think it's kind of like right now. You know, the highs aren't very high, and the lows are well farther below the line. However, I think actually what's going on, at least with my clients, we want to hide the fact that that's what's going on. It is what's going on, but there's that extra level of stress. And because it's been going on for so damn long, the more we want to ignore that it's happening. And we kind of push it back, right? We push it back. And so it comes out and we're like, well, what is wrong with these people I'm working with, or however that works? And it's like, it's really not them, folks. It's all of us. So what do we do? What do we know about that? Come on. So what we know is that this anxiety is pushing on us, and it has been for a while. Even for those of us who normally don't struggle with too much anxiety, it's always there. It's always that undercurrent, and it's unusual. And for those who struggle more often, it's more amplified, right? It's even more. So this is what it comes out as. It comes out at work one way or another, either with us pulling our hairs out or shrinking into our shell more, or throwing the proverbial computer because how could it bomb on me right now? So what do we need to do about it? Well, honestly, the very first thing that I've learned with my clients that works the best is to recognize there is this level of stress that is happening underneath of us. Just recognize it. Then we have to name it. Oh, this stress is in part, maybe not 100%, but in part coming from this ongoing pandemic fatigue. It is, we are so tired of it. It's gone on for so long. We just want it to be done. And you know what? We've got months left. We don't just have a week or two, we've got months left, and we need to acknowledge that. And the last thing that helps is acknowledging what it is and that we're feeling it. Now you'll notice it doesn't take us back to completely unstressed. It doesn't, but it relieves some of that pressure to go, oh, this is our normal. It sucks, but it's our normal for right now. And that helps alleviate just a little bit of the stress and moves that dial back from insanity ready to burst to tolerable again. Now, here's the interesting thing, and here's where stress dives right into strengths. The strengths of our preferences actually affect how we show our stress. It doesn't matter what instrument you use. I just chose several. DISC, Myers-Briggs, Insight, Strength Finders, any of the MBTI, what I would call bastardizations, because there's lots out there of MBTI this, almost like that. Lots of them out there. All of them have ranges. So if you think about MBTI or DISC, those two, they have ranges, right? So one of the most common, extrovert, introvert, you know, there are introverts and there are flaming extroverts. You never use flaming introvert because it doesn't exist. But you have those extroverts who are so excited that they're actually been by themselves for 20 minutes, even while they're on the phone with somebody else. That to them is being alone. That's that extrovert. By the way, those are the people we need to check on all the time because they are dying right now. Emotionally, the people who need people, it's so hard for them right now. Now, the introverts, on the other hand, this could go on for many more months and it would be they would be grateful. Thank you very much. Love how this works. So the one we're going to focus on today is Insight Inventory, not because I like it and it illustrates some things and it's easy. I use it with a lot of my clients and it's really straightforward and that's why I like it. But you don't have to use this. It applies for whatever preference or personality tool that you're using. This applies because it's all about how our preference come out. Some preferences are stronger than others. That's just a fact. The stronger the preference, the more likely we will lean on that preference or use that preference, and our stress increases how much we lean on our strongest preferences. So, trait intensity, on the light side, you know, there's no shade. Some characteristics of both sides were flexible, very fluid. In the lighter shade, yeah, some of the more of the characteristics are going to describe you than on the opposite side. But when we get over here, most of these dark sides, and this is where the closer we get to that in darker intensity, that's the stronger the preference. And the thing about stress is that we tend to overuse our strongest preferences. So Achilles heel, right? Our greatest strength can also be our greatest weakness. And that's what happens now. So we've got this COVID thing going on, and people are going to see our greatest strengths. So this person is very indirect. So they are going to probably become even more direct or more indirect. And as a result of that, as a result of being quite strong on that steady, steady means they need a lot of data to make decisions. Decisions are going to come even more slowly than usual. So that's what's going to happen with this individual. Now, this individual is going to be hell on wheels because they're outgoing and urgent and precise. So this person, and a little bit direct, this is the in-your-face person. And how they're handling with stress is they're going to be talking with as many people as possible, multitasking as often as possible because they're urgent and wanting everything to line up perfectly. And if that sounds like you need to drink some tea and relax because this can be a challenging place for us to be, especially the outgoing, pushing, the urgent, and the precise. On the other hand, here's someone else who is more precise, more direct, more reserved. This person might actually be very specific in what they need, not really very chatty. The reserved part, very comfortable with being away from people, probably. And yet, these folks need to work with each other. So if you look at this, this is the story of two of my clients from another state. So I'm very comfortable talking about these folks. So she called me, office manager, and she said, Leanne, I think I need to quit. And I was like, oh my goodness, Janet, why do you think you need to quit? She said, I don't think the team values me and appreciates me anymore. I think I'm driving them crazy. Someone else may need to step into my place because things just aren't, I'm not able to move the dial forward and I'm making people crazy. Yes. And I said, okay, so what part of this is pandemic fatigue and what part of this is really conflict? And she said, oh, it's all conflict. And I'm like, no, let's think about this. And we talked about the low level stress, the ongoing stress. And I said, so, and we talked a little bit about how her family is doing and the stress that that's bringing to her family and what automatically is coming into their financial planning, accounting practice, and how that's affecting it. People in and out. One of their people had to be quarantined for 2 weeks because they had they'd come in contact somebody, and as soon as he came back, somebody else had to go out. So it was all this, and as the office manager, she was trying to do that. And I said, and what's your favorite way to handle problematic situations when things get you stressed? She said, I organize the crap out of everything. And I said, yeah, how long is your checklist for the office? Oh, she said, I probably have 20 or 30 items on that checklist, and that's the most urgent. And I was like, so do you suppose that perhaps that is what is challenging everyone around you? Because that's how you're structuring it. And she said, oh, yeah, that could be. I said, so maybe having a conversation with George about what is driving you crazy and also backing. She said, you mean I need to back off? And I was like, yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe instead of having 20, maybe look at 5, and start communicating the 5 that you're working on. It's okay. And I said, for sure, do not leave. They love you. Oh, I don't think so. I think no, they love you. We know this to be true. So George called me the next day because he was feeling stressed, and he was like, Leanne, it's not working. It's not coming together. I just don't know. And I said, notice he is direct and reserved. So he doesn't pop very often, but he was popping. In other words, he's someone who maintains a very calm demeanor most of the time. And the reason that Janet thought he was ready to get rid of her was because he lost his temper a couple of times. He never loses his temper. And we did the exact same thing. I said, George, let's take a look at this. Let's talk about the pandemic fatigue. I said, especially for you, your wife is at really high risk. Not to mention you had a heart attack 2 years ago. So all of these things are really weighing on you. They can't help but weigh on you. And he's like, oh yeah. And I said, so let's think about this. You'll notice his steady is the opposite of her urgent. Her outgoing is the opposite of his reserved. That's where the rub was happening because they were overusing their strengths. Now, that's just the 2 of them. Oops, forgot I was going to do the circles. You add this to a different situation, now you've got someone who's indirect and steady. So the indirect means that they're very diplomatic and tactful. So they're going to be way more tactful, and in decision making, way slower because they want to make sure every odd is died, everything is in place. Then you've got someone who's direct, very direct and reserved and precise. So that means, like Rick, they're going to be communicating very directly. And you can see where that might cause a little conflict, especially when you lean on it extra hard. Okay, so then you just add another layer by another team member, and then another team member operating on your strengths, right? And driving each other a little bonkers. So the point of this is we all have it. So what I would like to know is which one of your strongest preferences, and you can name them anything. You could say you're introverted, extroverted. It can be judging, perceiving. It can be the influence or the steady or the conscientious, whatever preference, I don't care. Which one is your strongest preference that you've been overusing lately? And once again, you can either use the web or the text for this one. What have you been overusing lately? I'm going to wait until we get to like 10 before I show responses. We're at 3, 4. I'm assuming you can all see that right now. We're holding at 8. This is what I do in my classes when I have half the class in Zoom and half the class in the classroom. Oh, 9. A tip, this might, I think this is a word cloud, so that means that if you want to hyphenate something, you, if you want to have 2 words, you can hyphenate the 2 words, and that will give you the 2 phrases, the hyphenated word in here. One more, come on, one more. Nobody has any strengths they're preferences they're overusing? Nothing? All right, I'm going to show the responses. Oh, urgent, perceiving, fatigue, introvertedness, steady, compassion. Nice. I like that one. Reserved, controller, organizing. Yes, all of those things. Really love the compassion. I would guess that whoever typed in compassion also is feeling a little exhausted along with that fatigue part. That because caring for people takes a lot of energy. Serve, compassion, steady. Yes, all of those things. All right, so here's what we need to remember about empathy. And I'm glad that someone mentioned compassion is their strength they overuse. Empathy does not mean we agree. We can hear someone's emotions without agreeing with their opinion about where those emotions come from. That emotion is what we're really feeling the empathy for. So it's really about compassion. So when we're listening to someone and we're hearing their frustration, even though we may not understand or agree with that, we can say, you're frustrated because it seems like this is happening. Not agreeing, but we're acknowledging where that emotion is coming from. That is part of what we can do as we empathize with people. So here is a question for you. How is your stress showing itself at work? And what tips do you have for release? This, I'm going to really tax Carrie now, because I'm going to have her break you into groups. Try to do them in groups of like 3 or 4, because I'm only going to give them about 4 minutes. We got a little started late, so I'm just going to give you a very short time. So if we get them into groups of 4, and you have 3 or 4 minutes, each of you get about a minute to talk about how is your stress showing and tips for release. Of course, you can always argue with me if you want more time. So Carrie, have you got the breakout groups ready to rock?
You need to quickly coach me on how to do a breakout group. I'm sorry.
Okay, so in the dots, do you see where there are dots? There should be breakout groups for those. Do you see?
Let's see here.
Sometimes if you follow the dots, it will say breakout groups.
The dots at the very top?
Yeah, sometimes the dots are at the very top. Yes.
Oh, gall. I am so sorry, people.
That's okay. That's okay. Here's what we're going to do. I want nothing, you know, think on your feet, change it around. So what I want you to do is I want everyone for right now to just write one thing that how they've seen stress come out at work. So I want to see all of you more. So and Carrie might be able to flip us into a room, but while she's doing that, just take a minute and write down how your stress is coming out at work. Just one small thing, right? Take a minute, write it down. And then one tip that you have for releasing that stress. So something that you could share with everyone about how to release the stress or how you release your stress. Okay, so who would like to share? I'm not going to ask you, it's easier in a small group to say, this is what craziness I exhibit at work when I'm under stress. We're not going to do that. We're going to just share tips for addressing stress. And since I know a couple of people on this call, and I gave one of them a heads up, I'm going to call on Gregory. Gregory, what's one thing you do, or what's one tip that you have for folks? Because you knew this was coming, Greg.
I don't know. I mean, when you asked what strength we overusing, or not strength, but preference, I guess I talked about being reserved. And so I'd probably throw that one out as a thing at work too.
So, and what do you use to release some of that? Tips for releasing some of that stress? What have you found
I've been purposely like calling coworkers or having, you know, team meetings with coworkers to try to socialize more, you know, safely, and, you know, make sure I'm still connecting to people that I want to connect with. So, and that, you know, I would normally connect with in a more face-to-face world. So I'd point to that as a way to, you know, just be really conscious of keeping in touch with people. During the coronavirus in general, I've been sending text messages to friends that I would normally see, you know, and then connecting with them or calling them or whatever, just to try to make sure I maintain connection with people.
Great.
But my default is probably to, you know, be more too reserved maybe.
Curlin. Yep. So Danielle, you have a particularly challenging situation and stressful because you just moved, and so life is very, and you moved from a city to a small town, which has its own adventures.
Right.
So what are some tips you can share because you're stressed?
Well, I'm a chronic to-do list person, so I'm constantly writing to-do lists for work, for otherwise, and I've found that because those lists seem to be just so overwhelming and never ever ending, I've had to start breaking them down visually so that I don't get overwhelmed looking at my to-do list and I see this list of, you know, 25 things. I break it down by, you know, like either by priority of this has to happen today. So it's like my top 3 or top 5 things, and then put the rest of them in other categories like this week or, you know, in the next 2 weeks, because that visual breakdown helps relieve my own stress of, oh my gosh, I have so many things I need to get done. Plus, when I think of them at random times, then it just helps me kind of categorize going, okay, is this something I need to do tomorrow? Or is it something I can do in 2 days when I have more time to sit down and actually work on that? So the visual breakdown of, okay, I have 25 things, but really only 4 of them need to get done today helps immensely with my stress and anxiety of dealing with everything that has to get done.
Thank you. Thank you. Now you've had 2 people warm up, so who else would like to share? Feel free to just unmute and dive in.
There's some people responding in chat, Leanne.
Oh, awesome. What do we got there going on there, Gregory? Be their spokesperson.
Allison wrote, been really trying to focus on the things I can control and trying to let some of the other things go. Tara said, trying to find any positives in our situation. My children actually are doing really well with and prefer their hybrid school schedules.
Awesome. Okay, anybody else who would like to
This is Becky, and I'm really in a weird situation right now, obviously, trying to get everything wrapped up. So I keep telling myself I need to focus and get this done before Friday. But my release is, okay, I got to get away from the computer and take a break and go visit with the third or half of the staff who are here, since some like Ellen are working remotely. But sometimes I just mentally have to take a break from packing or getting things done on the computer and go talk to people in person again.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think that's the advantage of being, for some people who still can work in offices, even though their social distancing offices are closed, they can go out in masks and actually see humans, even if it's not, at least it's not just on the phone, right? I think that's hard. All right, well, thank you. All of those are great. And the point of this all is that we need to name it and be understanding and acknowledge it, both for ourselves and for our colleagues and the people around us. We need to acknowledge what's going on. And just that acknowledgement for ourselves and for others is a step in the right direction. And as you heard from the folks who were shared their tips, I think it's that acknowledgement and then the tip follows, right? So let's be there for each other, bottom line. All right, so now communicating during crisis. So all of you have had time working in your respective areas. What do you think are the 3 most important communication principles during a crisis? And I don't know if Rob is still on the phone or on the line, but it'll be really interesting for Rob to help us assess that. Now, one heads up on this is that this particular one, because it has more, it's going to be more than a short answer. You do need to go on to pollev.com/LeanneWolf198. That's the only way. It won't take a text message at this point. It has to be on the website. Awesome. You gotta start. Over communicate, be transparent, clarity, regular, tell the truth, speak out quickly before the other side. That's kind of weird. I'm going to undo that one so we can just go. Reiterating the message, be transparent, consistency, clarity, conciseness, lots of tell the truth, transparency. So, excellent. Here are my 3. During crisis, tell people the bad news first. Get it out of the way. And I learned this when I worked in compensation for a company, and they were completely rewriting the entire sales compensation. And as a communicator, the best you can hope for when you're changing people's compensation, sales people's compensation, is neutral. You're not ever going to get positive from people whose compensation you're changing. But if you can get a generally neutral reaction, you've got a huge win. And what we would do is we would say, here's what you're not going to like about this change. Here's why we changed it. And here's what you're going to like. And based on that, we can significantly reduce the questions. And that's why we've got a lot of bad news right now. And we want to think that we don't want that up front. Actually, people are just waiting for the next shoe to drop. So let's just tell people the bad news first, then explain why. And I think the next part for my crisis communication is what's next, including what we don't know. That is, for these three have served me really well throughout my career, not only as a communicator, but as a manager and as a consultant. Step into the bad news, explain why, which is we all often forget. And it goes back to the folks who said over communicate. You can never explain the why to people too often. They need to hear that why over and over again. Even if that why seems so obvious, we've said it 100 times. Yep, we have. We've said that. We need to keep saying it. And it becomes that tagline that we always add in there, so we ground people on it. And then what to expect, what's coming next. These are my 3 principles about what to expect. So one of the books that is one of my favorite books for clients as well as my classes is Great by Choice by Jim Collins. And in there, he talks about the Stockdale Principle. Admiral James Stockdale was one of the highest ranking POWs in the Vietnam War. And he was asked, who survived best in a POW camp, as if anyone survives best. He said it was the people who actually were more realistic. The optimists, if they put a date on their release, we're going to get out by Labor Day, we're going to get out by Thanksgiving, we're going to be home by Christmas, we're going to be home by Easter. The dates would pass and they'd lose heart, basically. And so it was those people who said, we're going to make it through. We don't know when, but we're going to make it through. And his point is, a famous quote he has is, you must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. And I think that is where my start with the bad news is grounded. Tell people the truth, especially when it's bad. Tell people the truth, even when it's bad, and focus on that we're going to get through this. Because you know what I keep focusing on in this pandemic, the thing I keep coming back to is, how many of us really thought about the 1918 pandemic when we were in high school, when we were studying the early 20th century in history? It didn't pop up as a huge thing. My parents were both born during that pandemic, and they both lost siblings during that pandemic. So it was in the DNA of our stories in some ways, but it was about the grieving of the loss. At the same time, there was something about, and we got through it. And I think that's where we need to focus. Yep, this sucks. It is really annoying, and we are going to get through it. And Stockdale this is one of my favorite quotes, and what I talk to my class and my clients a lot about. How do we talk about the current reality and never lose faith that we're going to make it? So what I would like to know, okay, Carrie, did you get the breakout groups figured out, ma'am? And no is an okay answer.
So I figured out that we didn't have it enabled on our account. So I went in and enabled it, but now I'm not sure, since we already started the meeting, if I'm able to do it again, because I can't find it to be able to pop up. So yeah.
So that's perfectly fine. So what, okay, now I need to shrink you all. What I'd like you to do is I want you to think about your top 3. You know, we looked at our top 3 principles. You've seen mine. What I was hoping to do is have you share a little bit about what your top 3 are and why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing, because my next part is just about questions, and then it's my closing slide. So what I'd like to know is, I would like to know what your top 3 are and why. Ah, and we lost Rob, doggone it. So anybody want to share your top 3 and why? We had a bunch of really interesting people. Is Brienne still there? Looking for Brienne. Brienne, you work at the hospice of the Red River Valley. I would be very curious about what you see as your top 3, because I think you're in a unique position.
Sorry, I am kind of in the middle of distance learning with my son, so I haven't been able to
No
totally
worries.
pay attention.
No worries, Brienne. No worries. That is the grace that we can give all of our colleagues, right? How about Jen? Is Jen still there? Okay.
I was gonna say, do you just want to repeat the question again, Leanne?
Sure. Your top 3 principles in communicating in crisis, and why?
This is Becky.
Go, Becky.
Yeah, my top 3 were, number 1, tell the truth. And several of us wrote that, I think. And my other one, I can't remember what the third one was, but I always believe in developing as a group the key messages, and then having one person be the spokesperson to share those key messages. And that probably comes from working at a university where, by God, it's my academic freedom. I can say anything I want. And it comes back to haunt us. So those are 2, but that's why on that one especially, because everybody's saying whatever they dang well want, and they don't even know the company line, let alone support it and want to share it with the public.
Good. Well, and consistency is important, right? Consistency is important. And so finding a way to get there. Thank you. Thank you. Who else?
I'll share mine, Leanne.
Excellent.
So in communication, being transparent, being open to being questioned about the communication, and also to be empathetic.
Good, good. And so you want to go into a little bit of why?
I think the reason why is because that's how I like to hear things. I like to have somebody, if they're going to be giving me news, be transparent about why it is the way it is, so that you're not trying to come up with your own theories in your mind, and open to questions, because I'm a person who likes to ask the follow-up. And maybe that's because I was in journalism for 10 years, but it's like, I'm going to ask you 5 or 6 questions until I feel comforted by your message. And empathetic, just so that the person who's asking or communicating needs to realize that whatever they're delivering, there's going to be a lot of different ways that people respond to it, and they need to understand why people are responding that way.
Yep. Good, good. Thank you. Thank you. I think we've got time for at least one more. And I'm not going to call on Allison because she also had children at home with her. Oh, how about Jennifer still there?
This is Tara. I can go.
Oh, thank you, Tara.
No problem. Ours were consistency, clarity, and being concise. And I think consistency is just, you know, what other people said, communicating often and in the same, you know, consistent manner, because if you're changing your messaging frequently, that can be really alarming to people. I think, you know, if you're saying one thing and then it's changing, and which also kind of goes hand in hand with the clarity and being concise. And whenever we're communicating internally or externally, we just really try to keep these three, I guess, in the top of our mind, that it's concise. That, I mean, yes, over communicating, I know that was one of them, and definitely agree with that. But if we're communicating too much and saying more than we need to in that aspect of, you know, staying concise and to the point, and keeping it clear, and I think that creates, you know, more ease of understanding. So those are kind of our top three that we usually try to stick with.
Excellent, excellent. So we have just a couple more minutes. Do you have questions of me? Is there anything where I was talking, you were like, "Ooh, I'm not so sure about that, Leanne. I'd like to know a little bit more," or, "Oh, that woman is whack." That's okay. I don't mind being told that my concepts might be whack. Gregory does to me occasionally. I wouldn't say all the time, but occasionally he will look at me cross-eyed. No questions?
I have a question, Leanne.
Awesome.
When you were talking about overusing particular preferences that you lean on, how do you know when you've reached the point of overusing? By others' reactions or your own?
I can tell because there's a tightness. I feel a tightness. And part of it is acknowledging that I'm feeling the stress, and then looking at, okay, because I'm direct and outgoing and urgent. And so for me, when I start feeling like there isn't enough time, I don't have time for this, I don't have time, that's my internal message to say, okay, Leanne, slow down. Because, you know, is it going to take another 15 seconds? Yeah. Okay. I think we can handle 15 seconds for me. You know, it's that it's recognizing and then talking to myself about what's going on. I think self-awareness is huge, but it's looking for the signals. It's not, you know, I think they say self-awareness, you know, y'all, part of emotional competence, the one side is self-awareness. It takes work to develop that self-awareness. And I think we give ourselves signals. It's that sometimes we ignore the signals we get. And so figuring out what your signal is, and then you take a step back and say, okay, what am I overusing? And how can I chill down a little, dial it back a little bit? Does that help, Pamela?
Thank you.
Anyone else? Great. All wrap.
Well, thank you, Leanne, for your presentation. I sure got a lot of notes out of it. So and can I just ask real quick, did you say the book that you recommend was Great by Choice? Is that what it was called?
Great by Choice. It's
okay.
It's a wonderful book. It's one of the series of Jim Collins books.
Okay, so great. I had to write that one down. So we are going to be, let's see here, I think Valley Marcom has the next meeting, and that's actually this Friday. And you do have to sign up and pre-register for it by tomorrow. Otherwise, just look out for more communications from NDPC about more of these meetings. And just a reminder that these are all free right now to join any of the meetings from any of the districts. But after the first of the year, we are hoping to have at least the North Dakota level membership to be able to access all of the trainings from all the different districts. So just keep your eyes out for more communication from that. So thank you all for coming along. Thank you, Leanne, for everything. And we will talk to everybody soon. See everyone soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.